Welcome to the Cookie-pocalypse webinar, hosted by the World Media Group. My name is Belinda Barker and I'm the Chief Executive. The World Media Group is an alliance of leading international media organisations that engage and connects brands with highly engaged, influential audiences in the context of renowned journalism. The members of the World Media Group are world renowned for their journalism, but almost as importantly, they're leaders in the use and understanding and insight derived from their very own P1 data. Now, the name of this webinar is Cookie-pocalypse, but to be honest, that's hyperbole. It's really just to get all of you to come and share this webinar with us today. The one thing we've learned during the pandemic is that we are able to adapt. And no doubt, as an industry, we will be able to adapt to this change. But there are going to be some winners and losers. And I hope that this session will help all of us to be on the winning side of that equation. Today's session is going to be chaired by Emily Roberts from BBC Global News and one of the World Media Group's lovely members. Emily's been great help to me putting this programme together, and she's highly qualified to be the chair. Emily's going to be joined by an amazing group of panellists, and she'll introduce them shortly. And they have experience from all sides of the industry. This is such an important topic, and I think that's testament to why we have almost 600 people joining us right now from all around the world. So I'd like to welcome everybody here joining us in Europe, but also those who've got up early in the US and staying up a little later in Asia, depending on what hemisphere of the world that you're in. We've got people joining us from all sorts of different parts of the world that have never joined us before. And if the person in Honduras who signed up for the seminar is out there, I'd like to particularly welcome them. So the World Media Group's annual programme is designed to inspire and educate and share best practices across the media and marketing industry. This is our second session of 2021, and it's the very first time we've had an event sponsor. So for those of you who don't know Permitive, they are an audience platform that give advertisers access to addressable consumers from premium publishers, achieving precision targeting while keeping everyone's data safe. So I'd like to introduce you to Elizabeth Brennan, who is their head of advertising strategy at Permitive. And she's going to share with you some key findings from some research that they have recently completed on this subject. So welcome, Elizabeth. Can I welcome you today and hand over to you?
Thank you so much, Belinda, for that introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm Elizabeth, and as Belinda said, I'm the head of advertising strategy at Permitive. I'm going to give you a quick briefing on the future of targeted and privacy compliant advertising using 4 different stats. In February, we commissioned Forrester to survey 105 advertisers at manager level and above in the UK and the US. And I'm going to take you through the highlights and give our view on what this research means about the future of digital advertising in the open web. The first stat is that 73% of brands are concerned with new privacy laws. And it's really easy to understand why. 1 in 5 customers have avoided buying a brand over its data practices. Data regulations and browser updates aim to protect user privacy, but undoubtedly they are upending existing marketing strategies, and marketers are facing an increasingly complex and confusing market. What is imperative is that brands take this opportunity to make plans around what they can control. They should build partnerships with those who have privacy compliant practices and build first-party data collection and execution strategies. The second stat is that 41% of advertisers rely exclusively on third-party data for targeting and measurement. This stat shows that there's much more work to be done by brands in terms of future-proofing their data strategies. Consider that in January 2022, third-party data will become null, and the only compliant scalable data for targeting will be publisher-based. It's time for advertisers now to wean themselves off third-party data. It's not too late to start building a plan from moving away from this style of working, but you need to invest in learning what blend of brand versus direct publisher relationships and first-party targeting will work for you. Allocate time to building direct relationships with publishers. They have an exceptional understanding of their audiences and a wealth of actionable first-party data. I strongly encourage advertisers to form alliances with publishers that are strategically valuable to them. The third stat is that 36% of brands say improving customer trust is a top priority for their organizations. The digital advertising industry has been collecting a huge amount of data about their customers to track them across the web. And this has to change, and brands are starting to prioritize it. Without building or rebuilding customer trust in how they use their data, data-driven marketing will be near impossible. There are things that brands and advertisers can do now to get ahead. Get to know the privacy preferences of your customers, because the level of data privacy expected from them will differ across categories. Then set up best practices with your internal teams and use external communications to really show customers the work that you're doing and how you're protecting their data. Adhering to best practices like this with transparency with your customers will help to build and preserve that brand trust. Question the compliance of your partners too, and ensure that they have the technology in place to really protect that hard-earned first-party data. Finally, 52% of brands have less than 5 direct publisher relationships. Publishers have a first-party relationship with their audience, and this means that they're able to attach compliant identifiers to 100% of the people that browse their sites. So in order for brands to really scale their data and work with the 95% of the web that will be anonymous once third-party cookies are removed from Chrome, you need to work more closely with publishers. Then you'll need to test first-party data activation. Having one-to-one relationships with strategically important publishers is absolutely key. But you also need to be able to scale digital targeting, and that means gaining access to reputable publishers who you don't necessarily have a direct relationship with. Working with a technology partner who can provide the infrastructure for you to do this in a streamlined way will give advertisers the ability to reach existing and new customers, which we all know is at the heart of marketing. It enables publishers also to open up their audiences to advertisers perhaps they don't have direct relationships with yet. But fundamentally, it's the only future-proof way you can protect yourself against data depreciation, which is caused by privacy regulation and browser updates. Thank you so much for your attention. And with that, I will hand back to Belinda.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Before I hand you over to Emily, I just have a little bit of housekeeping to share with you. For those of you who are socially active, do please share using our handle, which is hashtag WMG Cookieless World. And secondly, just before 1 p.m. GMT, we will be opening this up to questions, and we really want to know, what is top of your mind. So you'll see at the bottom of your screen, you've got a question box. Do please start using that now. And with that, I really would like to hand over to Emily Roberts, who's Programming Trading Manager for EMEA at BBC Global News. And welcome, Emily. Take it away.
Thank you, Belinda, and thank you, World Media Group, so much for having us host this incredible webinar today. Thank you for those that are listening at home or in an office or wherever you may be. And of course, thank you to our incredible panelists today. We really do have an amazing lineup of experts. So we have a poll, which should hopefully be appearing on your screens now, which we'll be taking a look at later on in the webinar. But for now, I want to introduce our incredible lineup. So of course you'll be familiar with Elizabeth Brennan, who's head of advertiser strategy at Permutive, Paul Kofi, director of platforms, partnerships and privacy at Google, with the wonderful Ratul Shah, who's head of product marketing at SAP, Jay Glogowski, who's executive director of revenue analytics and operations at the New York Times, and finally we have Erin Lachlan, director of ad tech, products and services at Dow Jones. So before we get into the panel, I just want to give a brief introduction to why we're all here today and to give you a kind of overview of what on earth kind of this means and what on earth is a third-party cookie. So at present, the website that you visit, with a few exceptions, will add something called a cookie to your device that you're using. And these cookies are small snippets of code, and they help track your browsing history across the web. Their collected information via a cookie could be used for, say, personalizing your content offering on a website, keeping you logged into an account if you're shopping, as well as displaying ads based on your interests. So showing you relevant and personalized ads improves your experience online and helps you to monetize the sites that you visit and that you love. And they do this by essentially selling your interest to advertisers. So third-party cookies, they send data they have collected back to a different website other than the one you're on. And third-party cookies can then build a generic interest segment about the user. So for instance, a business news enthusiast could be those who visited any relevant business pages across a set of news publishers. So for instance, say the New York Times, Dow Jones, or BBC. Whereas first-party cookies, by comparison, will only share their data back to the owners of the website you're visiting at the time. So all cookies are saved and handled by the browser you're using, and the biggest browser being Google's Chrome by market share. And last January, Google announced that in 2022, third-party cookies will be no longer used on Chrome. And this change essentially means that any data that an advertiser wants to collect or buy off a website that isn't theirs will no longer be doing this by the current approach. And it's a fantastic privacy milestone for all our users on the website. However, without a working privacy and preserving alternative that is widely supported by the wonderful advertising industry, this could severely risk the publisher's revenue. And it's important to note that similar privacy protection changes have already happened in other browsers, such as Safari and Mozilla. However, because not as many people use them compared to Chrome, this impact hasn't been as significant, as Chrome has about 70% of the market share. So, Paul, I want to come to you first and foremost, as I want to kind of understand what this change will mean to obviously the advertising industry, but also outside of the advertising industry. We have a lot of amazing people that don't work in advertising on the call today. What will it mean for them?
Thank you, Emily. It really goes back to what Elizabeth started off discussing, which was a sort of a long-term evolution of the ads online ecosystem. So for some time, it's been changing in response to consumer privacy expectations. 70% of users feel that they almost all the time they're being tracked by advertisers, technology firms, or other companies, and over 80% feel as if the potential risks they face from data collection outweigh the benefits. So clearly, there's something we need to do to improve, the sort of the ecosystem and the perception of the ecosystem for our users. Browsers, as you mentioned, device manufacturers and regulators all leaned into this issue to address these concerns. And I think the recent announcements at the beginning of this year from Google are reflective of those broader changes in the online ads industry. So in 2019, Chrome made a commitment to phase out third-party cookies. It was the last browser to do so, as you mentioned, but also importantly, not without a plan to support advertiser and agency use cases for publishers and marketers through a new initiative which they've called Privacy Sandbox. And so the goal is to create privacy-led solutions which both address the needs of the user, but also sort of drive like really amazing monetization and campaign performance for online advertising. So we've had some really good engagement from the industry. It's not just a Google thing. It's the initiative of Sandbox is an industry-wide program which we ask everyone to get involved in. And we announced a recent experiment called Flock, Federated Learning of Cohorts, which was all around building audiences through cohorts, so large groups of users, where the data is kept in the browser, so it's very private, but it enables us to drive pretty good campaign performance. These are only experiments at the moment. We're rolling those out and learning from them. And so I think these initiatives, they may cause some disruption in terms of what's going away. We're used to our third-party cookie environment, But these are, pretty exciting and durable solutions for the future, I think, which we can move forward on.
Amazing. And obviously, there's a lot of kind of topics that have come up recently. We've had Cambridge Analytica, which I think really kind of raised awareness of how important it is that we need to be privacy conscious with everything we do. And actually, it was the New York Times that obviously spoke about Cambridge Analytica. So I want to come to you, Jay, and kind of ask you why do you think this is so important for your readers to be aware of this change?
Yeah, I really think it comes down to trust. Our goal is for our readers to trust the excellent journalism that we produce each day. And we at the New York Times are embracing this change from the industry. We don't believe that the deprecation of third-party cookies and the increase in adoption of first-party cookies is a sacrifice of insights, of capabilities, and more importantly, from our reader experience. We're really focused on providing the best-in-class reader experience, which is not only inclusive of our content and how we display that content to them, but also making sure that the ad experience is just as high quality. We're so much embracing this is that we've actually went a little ahead of the industry, and we decided and announced that we were going to shift away from third-party cookies for our direct business by the end of the Q1 2021, which is just a couple days away. And that's exciting for us because, again, we don't believe that this is a trade-off, and we're creating products and insights that are going to be more performant and create better ads for our ultimate readers and increase the reader experience overall and satisfaction by our readers.
Amazing. And I think that's so important as well, to kind of make not only the user's experience the best possible, but also for advertisers, they want the best possible experience, right, on the New York Times. So I want to come to, obviously, Ratul, you're in marketing, and I kind of want to understand, do you think that marketing will have to change enormously in the digital landscape? Do you think what marketers are doing at the moment in their current marketing strategy will have to change?
Thank you very much, Emily and Belinda, for having me, and welcome to everyone in the audience. There is a shift that's been happening. As we think about what Elizabeth started with and what Paul and Jay have all mentioned, there are a lot of key words that we all heard, and it all comes down to the customer experience and knowing who your customer is and how they want to be treated. And the only way to do that is by doing this with a trusted relationship, with giving them transparency over why you're collecting their data and why you need their first party data. And then, of course, control over how you're using it. So as I think about what the New York Times is doing and going with that strategy to make things better for their base, for their customers, we all know that their customers are who is in control of the experience. A lot of people talk about that it's the marketer who owns the customer experience, or maybe it's the customer service representative who drives customer satisfaction scores. The reality is it is the customer. All of those privacy regulations that we talked about at the beginning, whether it was GDPR or in California, maybe those were regulations that were driven from the top down, but they were a result of what all of us as consumers have been asking for a very long time. For you to respect us and for us to be able to be in control of the relationship. And I think as marketers, the ones who adopt and understand that point and have the technology base to help them create that relationship, turn people from anonymous to known, help you be in control over your data and put you in the driver's seat, then give all of us as marketers, all of us as customer experience professionals, the way to look across internally, across our lines of business, break down those data silos that limit some of those experiences, and begin to put customers back in the driver's seat to give them exactly what they want: a trusted relationship with those brands that they're doing business with, ads that mean something to them, and experiences that keep them coming back for more. That ultimately, exactly what every marketer wants is advocacy in our customer base.
Fantastic. And I think there's already some big themes coming through today, with trust, transparency, and privacy all being at the heart of essentially why these changes are happening. I also want to kind of talk about maybe the elephant in the room as well, the fact that there's essentially a lot of money, right? So third-party data is worth 19 billion or thereabouts. It could be slightly more. but I want to know, and obviously the poll as well that we put out is also highlighting this as well, where essentially that money is going to go. We've got $19 billion on the table, and obviously that could go across the whole of the advertising industry. So I've got the results, and what's quite interesting is we've got a whopping 56% of you have said that this is going to go to first-party data strategies. So I think quite